Hello and welcome to TransForm Tuesday. Today, as we do every TransForm Tuesday, we're going to be doing some examples of what you can do with Alpha Transform. We'll also be here to answer your questions. And a lot of what we're going to show today is based on questions that have been asked in the last few days. So let's get started. My name is Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management. I'd like to welcome you all back. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And since I am flying solo here today, if one of you in the audience could let me know whether or not my screen is appearing, that would be very helpful. And once I see that, I'll carry on. Excellent. It looks like it's coming through. Great. So today, the couple of questions that we had, there was one general question, and it was about doing an if statement. In other words, how do I conditionally display some fields based on the value of another field? For example, if maybe there's a question on a form where you ask someone if they're employed, and if they say yes, then you say, okay, well, what's the name of the company you work for and how long have you been there? We'll give an example of that. The other thing we're going to talk about today are dispatch applications. Now, we've mentioned dispatch applications, but we really haven't gone into them in detail. And a dispatch application is an application in which you can assign certain records to certain users so that when they're out in the field, they just see forms that have been pre-filled out and assigned to them. A good example, let's imagine you're there to fix cable television installations. Let's say you work for a cable company. What might happen is in the morning you get up, and while you have a cell signal, you download the list of the things that you need to do onto your phone. And then regardless of whether or not you have a cell signal, you can then go to the different addresses, fix the equipment and make notes about it. And I'm going to show you an example, start to finish example actually, all around that. So let's get started. Let me open up TransForm, which is right here. We're going to go home, and I'm going to create, in this case, a new form. And I'm going to call this, I already have one called if then, but basically I want to call it something like that. So if then 2 is the name of the form. Okay. And we're going to put in some quick start text. So maybe we'll type in a name, and then my example was, are you currently employed? And we're going to make that a button list, which you can do either by putting in the 2 colons followed by the choices, or you can use the magic wand here on the right, and it will insert the buttons for you. Excellent. So actually, let me just see Sarah has joined us. So let me go ahead and move her over to the presenter role. Hang on a moment. Here we go. Organizer. There we go. Great. So Sarah Mitchell is joining us, who's in charge of our documentation department here at Alpha. I think most of you know Sarah. And she'll be here to help point to a couple places in the documentation, which I'm going to need later on. And it has to do with the customization of templates. But anyway, to carry on with this example, there is the name and ask if you are currently employed. And then if you are currently employed, let's say name of employer, and maybe a number of years. And we'll make that, let's say we'll make that a number. So I'll click the magic wand over here and I'll make that a number. Now, if we see here in our simple preview, we've got a name, the question whether or not you're employed, the name of your employer, and the number of years you've been employed. Now, if we went ahead and published that right now, let me go ahead and save that. You would always be asked these questions, name of employer and number of years, and regardless of what the answer was. So what we need to do is we need to actually put in an if-then statement so that we can conditionally decide whether or not to show those answers, show those questions. So we're going to do that here in the Fields Commands window. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these 2 fields here on the left. I'm going to click on it here and click on it there. And I'm going to enclose them in an if statement. So we'll scroll down here and I'm going to click on this enclose button. And now these 2 fields will only appear if a condition that we've defined is true. By default, it's set to true. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually create an if expression, and I'll show you how to do that. The first thing you do is just delete out the word true from the test case button. And then we're going to go to append field name and click on that. And here are my fields, and I'm going to choose the are you currently employed field. Then all I need to do is type equals equals quote yes quote. Why equals equals? Because this is actually JavaScript that we're doing here. In the future, we're going to make this a lot easier. We're going to build an expression builder, but for now you need to type in these types of JavaScript commands if you want to use the if statement. So great, it's all there. I'm going to go ahead and save the commands. And let's go ahead actually and make it a little bit fancier before I even push this up to my phone. And let's take these fields and let's put them in their own page. And we'll call that page employment questions. So let me go down to page start. I'm going to do another enclose. And I'm going to give the name employment questions. Great. So for review, these two fields, name and are you employed, will always be asked, but based on the answer, another page button will appear, and within that page button, there will be two questions that you can answer. So let's go ahead and save these commands. I'm going to click to save changes, and we're going to push that right up onto the TransForm server. Great. So meanwhile, back on my phone, let me just open up mirroring. Okay. I'm going to go open up TransForm. So now you're looking at my phone and you're looking at my TransForm application on my phone. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add form, and I'm going to refresh form definitions because we just created this form. My phone doesn't know about it yet. And I'm going to scroll down to the form that will be called if then to. So I'll go ahead and put my thumb on it and click on it. And there's the name. So I'm going to type in my name is Dave. And currently employed, I'm going to say yes. And you'll notice when I clicked yes, I'll do it again. When I click yes, an employment questions section has appeared here. I'm going to click on employment questions, and there are my questions. Alpha Software. Okay, and then number of years. I actually don't want to tell you the answer to that, but it's over 20. And there we go, back. And that's how you do an if then. I don't know if there are any questions on that, but if you do have any questions, go ahead and type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. I'd be happy to help you with that. If not, I'm going to move on to talking about dispatch applications. Now, someone had written into us earlier in the week. Actually, let me shut off my phone mirroring. And they said that they're interested in doing a dispatch type of application where they have, say, two people out on the field, and they have a form. A form definition, I should say. So let's go ahead and create a form definition, and I'll show you, and we'll kind of work from there. I'll show you how it's going to all work out. So we're going to start with a new form type. Here I am in the designer. I'm going to click plus, and we'll add a blank one, and we'll call this repair app. Okay. And we'll use the input quick start text, which is probably my favorite way of getting started when I'm building out my apps. And the first thing we're going to need to know is maybe the customer's name. And then the very next thing we'll want is the address and the city and the state. If I can spell state. And then maybe what the issue is that they're having, and maybe any notes that they may have. And I'm just going to leave these all as text fields. They don't need to be any other field types, really. And I'm just going to click Save here. And now here it is. There's the Repair app, Form 7. And I'm going to go to the Management Console. Actually, I'm going to click to Save Changes so that that type of form has been saved to the TransForm cloud. And I'm going to go to Management Console. And now here in Management Console, I am going to choose the type of form. And the type of form is going to be the form that we just created, which I don't see. So let's go and refresh those form types here. And let me just find it real quick. Okay, hang on a second. Let's go back to Home, Designer, Repair App. That should be in my list. If it's not my list, there's something funny going on, but I know how to fix that. So hang on a second. Yeah, I don't see that there. Great. So what I'm going to do, and this is a bug, hopefully it will be fixed in a day or so. I'm just going to log out and log back in again. All right, choose Dave's account. And now here we are in Designer. Make sure my form is still there. It is Repair App. I'll go to Management Console. Okay. And Repair App is right there where it should be. Fantastic. So now I've created a Repair App, but I haven't filled out any instances. I haven't created any instances yet of that form. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to say plus. Okay, that's interesting. Always during the demo. There we go. And when I click plus, there are two ways of adding new instances of the form. One is you could just add one instance, it'll be blank, but the other is quick input. May as well show you that, it's kind of cool. So when I click quick input, it gives me this blank screen here. And here I can just fill in fields. It's kind of like input quick start text. So here we've got different fields, and we've named them field 2, field 3, field 4, field 5, field 6. Which is not ideal. And I probably, when I was in the Designer, should have given them proper names, but we'll work with this for now. So we'll say the first field here is John Smith, and the address is 1 Main Street, and the city is, say, Boston, state is Mass, and we'll say the issue is poor cable reception. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, when I do, you'll see that the values that I've typed in are already all filled out here. But now I can do something else. I can assign a particular user to this. So I've got Sarah on the line with me, so I'm going to assign this one to Sarah. Sarah Mitchell at alphasoftware.com. She'll be one of our cable repair and installation specialists. So there we have this one is assigned to her. Now I'm going to create another one and assign it to me. Oh, let me have to save my changes. Okay, and we'll do another one. We'll assign this to me. That's interesting. Oh, all right. Plus. All right, you know, when you do a live demo, there's nothing quite like it. This should be opening up to another place, but you know what? I can do it. I can just edit it this way. So I've selected my second record here, and I'm going to say that instead of it going to John Smith, maybe this will go to Bob Smith's son, and he is at 25 Linden Avenue, and we'll say that one is in Burlington. And let's say cable is out. And this time I'm going to assign it to me. So Dave at Alpha Software. That's my username. And there it is. And now I've assigned that one to me. So this one's assigned to Sarah. This one's assigned to me. I'm going to go ahead and click and save changes. All right. So now that I have one form that's assigned to me, this repair form, and it's been pre-filled with, oh, this is funny. Let me go ahead and open this
Dave,
up.
Can I interrupt?
Yes.
I accidentally. I opened TransForm and I had that form type already, and then it synchronized. So that's why you have two. I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, that totally
Sorry
makes
about
sense.
that. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
do that.
Oh my goodness, there's someone behind the scenes. All right, well, it makes sense now. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share my phone, and we're going to see that, in fact, that ticket has been assigned to me. And so let me start screen sharing again. I'm going to go back to TransForm. Whoops. I'm going to go done. I'm going to go to, just going to refresh the form types, and I'm going to go to existing forms. And at the bottom, actually, let me just log out and log back in. That's fine. Dave's account, select. And at the bottom, finally, is my repair app. And if I click on my repair app, it just says repair app. Double click on it. It shows you the customer, John Smith, 1 Main Street, Boston, Mass, and all that stuff. It's all been pre-filled out for me. Now, here's the problem. If I had a whole bunch of records here on this existing form list like I do now, and it just said repair app, that might not be very helpful to me because if I have 3 or 4 records, I might want to plan out a route so that I efficiently go from one customer to the other. And there's no, right now it just says repair app. There's no customer name, there's no address, there's no anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to modify the way this appears in TransForm so that I can see the address so I can make a better prediction as to which form I need to open up. So I don't have to open up each of them to find the one that I'm looking for. So let me show you how to do that. First of all, I'm going to close out of my screen sharing for a moment. Yeah, man. And I'm going to go back to Designer, and I'm going to find that repair app. Oops. And under here, under Advanced Features, I don't know how many of you have actually looked through this section, but we have this section here called Heading Template. And there is documentation behind it. There's an example that you can find in the documentation section, and I'm going to actually show that to you right now. Here we are in the Alpha documentation section, and it shows you an example of the type of template that you could put in. So I'm going to go ahead back to Alpha TransForm, and I'm going to paste in that template. Except I happen to know that what I really want is not an equipment ID. That should be customer name. And field 1 is fine. And then the second one is address. And that's field 2. And then the last one will be, let's say, city. And that will be data dot field 3. Okay, click out of there, and I'm going to click and save changes. Now that that's been saved, I'm going to go back to my phone, share my screen again, and I'll show you what's different. Okay. Let's refresh the form definitions real quick. And if I've done this properly, I'm going to go down to existing forms, and there we go. If you see my repair app here at the bottom, I've got John Smith, 1 Main Street, City, Boston. I can put any information in there I want. I can put in any HTML I want if I want to style it. But that's how you do it. You use this heading template over here in Designer, which you can find details for right in the documentation system. Now, all this might seem a little clunky. I mean, having to create these new forms and stuff, but keep in mind that Management Console, let me close this again, was meant to show you basically the manual way of doing stuff in TransForm. What I mean by that is we assume that a lot of you are Alpha Anywhere users or also program perhaps in other types of platforms, that you'll actually want to have another system insert these records for you. So while you certainly could use this method and say, I'd like to add a new field and insert people this way, you may also want to programmatically feed the JSON back through the API and have it fill out all of this information, including assigning the user ID. And we have documentation also on how to do that. Let me see if there's anything else I want to handle here. Not particularly. The only thing that you have to remember, though, is that when I've been assigning people by user ID, I have to make sure that they are, in fact, permitted to fill out forms in my account. And I would do that over here in the Home tab. So in Home tab, I'd go down to Manage User Roles. And in this case, I had Sarah and I had me. And so I knew that I could enter in those email addresses. If I needed to add more people to my account, of course, I could always go to Add Users to Account and enter in their email addresses. And then I go back here to Manage User Roles, and I'd say what they're allowed to do. Now, by default, everyone is a user. So if you add someone to the role as, if you add anyone to your account, they're going to have the ability to fill out forms. You could take that away from them, but by default, that's what they get. Let me see what else we've got here. I think that that's it actually for my demo, but let me go take a look quickly here through the questions since we've got, we have a few minutes left.
So I have one that came from Dan. And if you go back to the management console,
yeah.
When you created your form, remember how it didn't show up in that list?
Yes.
When you clicked on Choose Type?
So
if you open up,
okay.
If you go ahead and open up Choose Type and you look at the very, very bottom of that window, there's a refresh button.
But down here, thank you very much.
Yes.
That's what I was doing
So you don't have
wrong.
to log out and log in.
So you don't have to log out and log back in again. We actually have you covered there by clicking refresh. So that's it. So in other words, when you build your form in Designer, just a quick review, and then you come over to Management Console and you want to choose that type of form, if you don't see it in the list, hit this refresh button. Excellent. It was very handy that we had Dan on today to actually tell us what we're supposed to use. Someone asked here, is it possible to use an API call to push the data into a form ready to dispatch and assign to a user? The answer is absolutely. And in fact, that we plan that for that to be a primary use perhaps of TransForm. Maybe it won't be. Maybe people will use Management Console, but I imagine it'd be a lot easier if you did it this way. And in fact, I could see us doing an Alpha Anywhere demo where we show you how to make that type of API call, maybe using a UX component and pushing it through. Let's see what else we've got. Oh, someone said, can you just, someone said, do you have to put the questions on another page back in my if example? Let me go back to my if then form. And the answer is you don't. So going back to Designer, my if then form. So if you recall, I had created an if condition, which starts here and ends there. And if that's true, it displays a page. And within that page, it displays these values. But I can absolutely get rid of that. So let me just subtract that out. And notice it's telling me I have an error because I removed the beginning of the page, but I didn't remove the end of the page. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. And let's save that. Push that up. Okay. And now if I open up my phone again, and I do some screen sharing. Okay. And I open TransForm, add form, refresh form definitions. And I go to if then two. Before, when I clicked yes to this question, a page appeared. But now if I click yes, it's just the questions that appear. So there's no, you don't need to organize it into a page. You can just say, put it there. And this is actually very common where it says, have you had any, especially for medical forms, have you had, are you taking any medications? No or yes. Or if it's yes, which medications are you taking? That kind of thing. So there's a lot of times where you want additional information based on the answer to a yes or no question. Let me see anything else here. I don't see any other questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. And I'd also like to remind you that we do have an email dedicated just to TransForm questions called TF Service, as in Transform Service, at alphasoftware.com. It's seen and monitored by a bunch of people, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have based on that. So I'll give you all another minute or two. So here's another question. Is there a way to, is there a place to fill in answers that always transitions to another page? So for example, if I say yes to a question, can it automatically bring me to another page? I don't think so. I believe all it can do is just prompt you then to go to another page. But if you'd like to have that ability, send us an email and we'll talk about sort of what the use case might be for that. Oh, someone is asking, to have it so it doesn't transition to another page. Yeah, that was what we just showed. So if you don't want to have it transition to another page, you can just use the if and not build a page into it. One more question we have here, how do I do multiple images? That's a great question. So let me make this go away. Let me shut off my mirroring. Come on. Stop. Thanks. Let's take a look at, let's say repair app. And we're going to go here. Now in this very simple form, where we have address, date, issue, and notes, let's imagine that besides notes, you want to take a photo. So to do that, you would simply add in a photo field. So far, I think most of you know how to do this, but I'll show you what we're going to do. So this would be, it's a photo field, and we'll give it a title. Oops. Pictures of installation. Okay. So now if I have that, I have room for one picture, but the question is, how do I do multiple pictures? Especially if you don't, obviously I could add multiple fields here, but what if you don't know the number? Maybe sometimes it's 1 and sometimes it's 20, who knows? What you'd want to do is you'd want to put that into a data group. So to do that, I just simply select the field that I want to include, or fields that I want to include. In this case, it's just 1. I say plus, and I'm going to go down here and find data group. And again, I'm going to use this enclose button. And what a data group will do is it will give me, if you can see down here, a place where I can say add a new item to the group. Now, it's very helpful at this point to give these messages useful names. So, for example, instead of saying add a new item to the group, I'd want to say add a new photo. And there's by default a delete message, and you could say delete this photo. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. Push it back up onto TransForm. I'm going to open up my phone, turn on mirroring. Okay, go back into TransForm. And we're going to add a form. I'm going to refresh definitions because we just made a change. And I'm going to go down to that repair form that we had, repair app. Oops. Oops, add forms, repair app. There we go. Now, it's the same as before. You still see the name, address, state, city, issue, and so on. But now there's a little button which says add photo. So I'm going to click add photo. I'm going to tap. I'm going to insert a picture. Here's a picture of a picture of a picture. It's kind of meta. I'm going to go ahead and use that. And so I've got one. But let's say I wanted to add another picture. I just click add another photo. So I'm going to tap again and capture a picture of my Alpha Anywhere water bottle. And now I've got 2. And you'll notice the add a new photo is the caption that we typed in, and delete this photo is also the prompt that we had. So if you wanted to remove a photo once you're here, I can just click on delete, and it will go ahead and delete the photo, and off it goes. So that's how you do that. So it looks like we have come to the end of our session. Thanks very much for everyone who asked questions, and thanks a lot for sending in some of those questions ahead of time. That makes it a lot easier. If there's something in particular that you'd like us to cover, even if it's not exactly a question, but maybe something a little bit broader about how you might use TransForm with other systems or something like that, anything you can think of, really, go ahead, send those questions to tfservice@alphasoftware.com. So thanks again to everyone attended. Thanks for those folks who asked questions. Thanks a lot, Dan and Sarah, for being on the line to help me out. Hope to see you next Tuesday at the next TransForm Tuesday. Take care and goodbye.